Hi my friends, the concepts we are going to learn today are momentous. We are going to learn numeric types, integer and float. We all know integers, but float, which correspond to decimal numbers, may be a new term. Float is used to represent real numbers and is written with a decimal point dividing the integer and the fractional parts. Let's examine them. I declare a variable called number1 and I will make it bigger, and then let's say 5. If you don't know what the variables is, I suggest you to watch the previous videos. If we declare a variable and equals some value to it, in our case it's 5, Python is able to find out the type of that data. So what I mean is that Python can automatically detect the number 5 is an integer. You will understand better soon. I will declare a second variable, so let's say number 2, and the value of this variable will be a float number. First of all, I want to print them to the console, so let's say number 1, the print number 2. So if we print them to the console, okay, we see the variables here. As I just said, Python can automatically understand the type of the expression we wrote here. For example, if we write an integer value, Python can detect that it is type of integer. We also are able to find out the type of expressions, type of variables. We can do that with the type function. You know, we learned the len function in the previous lesson. Their usage are the same. Let me show you. I don't need to print them anymore, so I will just write print type, and I put parentheses here. Inside the parentheses we write the expression we want to know the type. We cannot directly the number 5. However, we can also use the name of this variable here because it is equal to 5. So I can use this variable, let's say number 1, and if I run this code, look at the terminal. Its type is int, which means integer. What if we want to learn the type of this variable, I mean the number 2? If I want to learn it, let's run it again. This time we saw that it is float. In our previous lessons, we learned what a string is. For example, when I write something like that, let's say example string, but yeah, you can give any variable name. It depends on what the value is. I mean, we usually name the variables related to the value. So if I write hello world, and if I want to learn the type of this variable, I mean this expression here, all I need to do is just to copy it and paste it here. So let's run this code and then look at the terminal. We saw that it is str, which means string. So if we go back to our topic, we have two main numeric types, float and the integer. And I don't need it, I will delete this. I will just write number 2, run it again. Okay. When we talk about numbers and numeric types, of course we can't do without talking about mathematical operations. We are going to take a look at the operations one by one. So I delete this, I also delete them, I don't need them. So we are going to use print here. Let's say 3 plus 5. So if we run it, we get the result here. And if I write different operations like 3 minus 4, if I run it, we get the result here. And if I want to do multiplication, I need to use asterisk here. So if I write 5 and 2 here, the result will be 10. The result is here, as you can see. For division, we have two different options. I'm able to do division to get both float and integer result. Let me show you what I mean. For example, if I write 16 and the division mark 5, if I run this code, I got a float result here because 5 is not multiple of 16. If I add one more division mark here and if I run this code again, the result have been an integer here. If I use two division mark, the result always become integer. But if I use a single division mark, the result can be float. So keep that in your mind. I mean, if I use a double division mark here, the result is usually rounded by Python. One of the other mathematical operations is powered numbers. So if I write 3 and a double asterisk and 4, let's run this code. The result is 81. This expression is equivalent to powered numbers in math. You know, these are the basic mathematical operations anyway. We have also the issue of absolute value, which we remember from math. Even if the number is negative, it always gives a positive result. So if I write abs and for example, let's say -5, if I run this code, the result is always positive if we use this function. I can also use a float value here. If I write 5.5, I got the positive result. I also would like to mention round function. We can use it to round numbers. So let's say I will declare a variable number, and I am going to do some mathematical operations. So let's say 5 asterisk, for example 4.2. This is the float, you know. If I run this code, if I run this code here, we didn't get any result because we didn't print it. So let's say number, actually I will change it to 4. We have a float result here, but we can directly round this result with round function. So if I write print round, because we are going to use the round function, and inside the parentheses we need to pass a value. So I'm going to pass this value. So let's say number. If I run this code, and we got the integer result here, but there is something I want to highlight here. I want to declare two variables. I want to show you something. Let's say number 1 3.4 and the number 2 is 3.5, and I will use a round function again for both these variables. Let's say round number 1 and a print round. I'm going to use it one more time, number 2. So I want to show you something. And okay, look at the terminal. 3.4 has been rounded to 3, but 3.5 has been rounded to 4. The logic here is that if the decimal part, I mean the part after dot here, is equal or greater than 5, Python round it to the greater integer. But if it is less than 5, I mean it is like 4, 3, 2, Python rounds it to the lower integer. So keep that in your mind. You can also determine how many digits it should be rounded. I'm going to declare a new variable. I'm going to show you. Let's say number, and I will write a float value here. And if I use round function here, the result will be 4. Look at the terminal, the result is 4. We already learned that. If I give one more value to this round function, so let's say 1, this value determines how many decimal digits we want to get. In our scenario, we only want 1 digit decimal number. So if I run this code, the result was 3.9 as we expected. If I write 2 here and run this code, and we got 2 digit decimal number. So if I write 3, we will get the 3 decimal number here, and so on. Don't tire yourself out to memorize all these things. Remember that such a thing can be done, and then you can find out how it is done by just doing a short search on the internet. And now I want to talk about order of operations. In fact, there is no difference between order of operations on the paper and the Python. Parentheses take the first order to be done, and then there are the operations of multiplication and division, then the operations of addition and subtraction. And for example, I want to write something, let's say print 3, and then I will do a multiplication with 5, and then I will just an addition, let's say 6. And I will do it like that to see it better. So first of all, the multiplication will be done. So the result will be 15. Then the number 6 will be added to 15, and the result will be printed to the terminal. So let's run the code. The result is 21 as expected. Now let's do something else. I will clean it. I will add the parentheses here. So let's say 5 plus 5 inside the parentheses, and then multiplication here, and then I need addition. First of all, the addition will be done inside the parentheses, because of what we said, the parentheses are on the first order, and then the total which comes from this parentheses will be multiplied by 5, and then the result which comes from here will be added with 2. So we can see the result in the terminal. Okay, we get 52. There is one more thing I want to mention. We learned strings in the previous lessons, and in this lesson we learned floats and integers. What if I write something like, for example, number 1, and if I say 5, and I want to declare a second variable, so let's say number 2, and the value is 2. If I try to do addition operation, because we learned that we can do all kinds of mathematical operations with numbers in Python. What do you think, what results we are going to get? So we can try it. So let's write print number 1 plus number 2. So if I run this code, we got an error here. But why? In the first lesson, I said that the things that come between these quotes are strings. Strings are expressions made up of characters. Python doesn't see this expression here as a number, and since it is still a string, we can do the addition operation here. there is no difference whether we write a number here or write a letter. I mean, there is no difference if we write 5 or if we write L here. There is no difference in eye of Python. We get an error because we are trying to add a number with something non-numeric. So if I run this code again, we get the same error. So as I said, there is no difference between writing L here or writing 5. There is no difference. And we saw the type function at the beginning of this video. So let's learn the type of this expression here, this variable here. So if I write type and the number 1, let's run it. As you can see, the expression is a string. The following question should be like that: can't we convert a string expression to integer or float or any other type? The answer is yes. We can convert the number 5 to integer or float because 5 is a number. However, if we try to convert a letter or a symbol to an integer or float, of course Python will throw us an error because it is impossible that a letter has a numeric value. I hope it was explanatory. So if I back to topic, we can convert this string to both float and integer since 5 is a number, and 5 would make sense for both integer and float. So let's do it. To do that, first of all, we need to determine which type we want to convert it. So let's say we want to convert it to integer. So I will write like that: number 1 equal to int. So we want to convert something to integer. So I'm not going to write this for now. So we want to convert something to integer. So we write it like that. And inside the parentheses, we want to write the value that we want to convert to integer. So in our case, it is 5. We can write it like that, or we can just write the name of the variable. So the number 1. And I want to print it. We can just say print here. But we don't see any difference for now. The variable here still seems like a string here because we didn't change the variable here. So to do that, we just need to write number 1. So we update the old variable with the new one here, with the integer 1 here. So if I run this code again and then look at terminal, the number 5, which is a string, became an integer because we converted it to integer here. And since it is an integer, from now on I can do the addition operation. So if I say print and the number 1 plus number 2, and I can do the addition operation here. So if I run this code, I get the result here. It's 7. And I'm going to end the video here. And don't worry, we will make some examples about what we learned. We will do some practice in the following lessons. It may seem confusing at first, but don't give up. No one can learn such things from the first video they watch. Give yourself some time. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. See you in the next video.